Hey, everybody. It is Friday, and we all know what that means. That is right. It is episode number 102 of The Real Deal Pod with Allister and Geoff. It is I, Allister Carrington, your trusted realtor as always, alongside our main man, our main mortgage broker, our mortgage guru, Geoff Lee. Geoff, buddy, happy belated Canada Day and July 4th. How are you doing, buddy? How you been?
I am doing well. It's a little bit of a gloomy day, but as they say on Fridays, Friday.
That's
So
right, baby.
happy Friday to you.
Got any plans for this weekend? How was your Canada Day?
You know what? Canada Day was a little bit of an odd day just because how it fell on a Wednesday. So it's like it made me think of two things. I need long weekends to be true long weekends. Like let them land on a Friday or a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Because Tuesday is or Wednesday, it's like, you're getting that appetizer, but then, you can't really enjoy your meal because, you got to, you're going somewhere else, the day after. Right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't bad. My highlight of my weekend, I would say, would be hitting our local, not our local, but a fine establishment in Langley. A shout out to the Barley Merchant. They basically hosted the Canada game Canada game with Morocco.
Right on.
Unfortunately, we came out on the losing end, but went there with Chris, with my BNI group. It was a good time. And a shout out to Team Canada. They actually played very, very well. In fact, I thought they outplayed Morocco until they kind of had an unfortunate goal against them and then had to open it up a little bit that pretty much shot them in the foot.
Yeah.
And I'm not a soccer fan, so I don't know. So
no, shout out to Team Canada. Shout out to Team Canada. They played well. And for what blah, 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 blah. If you people don't know, Canada actually has never beaten Morocco. And so so for us to lose, it's not that big of a surprise to those of us that do pay attention to soccer. It wasn't a surprise. I was just like Geoff said, absolutely impressed on how Team Canada played. We suffered injuries. We played through injuries as well. Team Canada did a phenomenal job. So way to represent. And Vancouver, way to represent. From everything that I have read, everything that I have heard, we put on one of the best venues for the World Cup. So shout out to everybody in Vancouver that came out to participate, that put on everything. Great job.
Yeah. I was at a Vancouver Canadians game last night for a broker event sponsored through Sagan. I'm doing all these shout outs here. Yeah, but I was speaking with somebody. Number one, I guess the Blue Jays injected $20 million into, well, I call it Nat Bailey, but I think it's called Rogers something now. But $20 million they injected into that to that stadium, which is phenomenal. So anyone that hasn't seen a Vancouver Canadians game, go check it out. It's actually pretty fun. And then the other part of that was that Vancouver was the best host city that they said. And I didn't realize that they actually had real grass in BC Place.
Yes, they did.
And now they're in the process of ripping it all out. But I guess they had these sun lamp. They closed the roof. They had sun lamps on it. It was just phenomenal grass, and they were like, "Oh, it's better than the Mexican grass, better than the American grass." And I heard someone say, "Well, BC is known for the best grass."
That's what I was saying. BC, we know what we're good on.
So that got quite a chuckle.
That's awesome. Yeah. So it's great. I didn't get a chance to go check out to check out anything. My son went down to the Switzerland game. He was out watching the Switzerland game with everybody and had an amazing time and was telling us all how great it was when he came back. So again, it's nice to see how good of a job that we do and that we did. It's great to see the exposure again that we gave our beautiful country gave out to everybody across the world, and that I'm not spoiling the did you know, because unfortunately this didn't make the did you know cut. But Geoff, did you know that Vancouver was ranked number 9 for the most livable city in the world?
Oh.
We are the only North American city that cracked the top 10.
Which I think is a bump up from where we have been ranked in the past.
Yeah.
Right?
So we're the only North American city that made it. So way to go, Vancouver. I mean, coupled with that honor and along with the job that we did at the World Cup, I mean, it could be like Expo 86 all over again, Geoff. People saying, let's go move to Vancouver.
Well, let's be honest, like Vancouver is a beautiful city. Outside of its homeless issue, it's hard to compare. You got your mountains, you got your water, you got your landscapes, you got your city, you got the restaurants, you got, like, it's just a good vibe. If we could figure out our homeless issue, I think Snoop Dogg put it best when he came to visit Vancouver. That we would be probably pushing it up to the podium in top 3 for sure.
100%. I would agree with that. Amazing, my man. Well, let's get into today, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about today, and let's kick it off with the hottest segment in podcast, and that is Did You Know?
Did you know?
That is right, Geoff.
Did you know?
So, Geoff, did you know that the stats for June are out? No?
Do tell.
All right, man. Well, let's begin with Metro Vancouver, where we're starting to see some encouraging signs that buyers may be becoming more active. So, home sales, Geoff, in Vancouver were up 9.6% compared to June of last year. And what is particularly interesting in that is that for the first time in, oh my God, it feels like years, for the first time in years, detached homes, townhomes, and condos all saw year-over-year increases in sales. And I know, Geoff, that comes off of, multiple year-over-year downs. But we've been speaking about it for a few months now. And we've been talking about how detached homes, we've seen them been moving. We've seen townhomes in the Fraser Valley moving. So it's not that surprising that we've seen those category moves moving. But we've been talking about condos forever, about how they're not going anywhere. So to see that category have a bump last month and be up year over year, I think that's a little bit of a significant tell, right? I think that's a bit of a significant celebration, right? That we see that little bump in that category, right? Inventory is still relatively high, with just over 17,000 homes available for sale. Again, meaning that buyers have plenty of choice. And because of that, though, home prices have remained relatively stable again for the past few months. And what makes this market interesting is that we're seeing demand increase while the number of new listings coming to market has started to slow down. And if that trend continues, we could eventually see inventory begin to tighten, which may put upward pressure on prices in the months ahead. It's still early, it's still early. We still know where we are out from an economic standpoint outside of our own walls, but it's definitely something worth watching. So let's move over to the Fraser Valley, where it continues to be one of the most buyer-friendly markets we've seen in years. Home prices have become considerably more affordable, with benchmark pricing now sitting 26% below their peak in 2022. That's a significant number. Is benchmark pricing is now sitting 26% below the peak in 2022. In June, the benchmark price for a typical home was $884,800, which was down 7% to last year. Sales increased slightly compared to May, but they were still 4% lower than June of last year. At the same time, there were more than 10,000 active listings across the Fraser Valley. Again, giving buyers lots of options and very little pressure to compete. Homes are taking a little longer to sell. On average, detached homes sold in 37 days, townhomes in 33, and condos in 38 days. And perhaps the most important statistic is the sales to active listing ratio, which sits at 11%. So again, firmly in a buyer's market. So before I hand it over to you for your thoughts, Geoff, I just wanted to give a quick side-by-side comparison for everybody, just to make it a little bit easier with the important KPIs, as I call them, key performance indicators. So for home sales, Metro Vancouver was up 9.6% year over year, and Fraser Valley was down 4%. New listings, Metro Vancouver was down 6% year over year. Fraser Valley was down 9%. Active listings in Metro Vancouver, 17,017. In the Fraser Valley, 10,377. The sales to active listing ratio, which I said earlier, which is a key indicator, 11% in the Fraser Valley, 14.6 in Metro Vancouver. So that right there tells us for the month of June, it was a buyer's market in the Fraser Valley. And actually in Metro Vancouver, it moved into a strong, balanced market, because I want everybody to remember 12% and below is a buyer's market. So when you hit the 14.6 mark, that's a pretty strong, balanced market, right? And then again, everything over 20% is when you hit a seller's market. Benchmark pricing, as we said, benchmark pricing for a home, $884,800 in the Fraser Valley, and just shy of 1.1 million in Vancouver, which is a 6% decrease in Metro Vancouver and 7% decrease in Vancouver. And just to go quickly, days on market for an apartment or for a detached home in Vancouver, it's 39 days. In Fraser Valley, it's 37. So very similar selling pace. Average days on market for a townhome, 35 in Vancouver, 33 in the Valley, in the Fraser Valley. And for a condo, 39 days in Vancouver and 38 days in the Valley. So, Geoff, that's a lot of numbers there. What do you think?
I don't know if you're getting a lag, but I'm getting a lag on my end. So
Okay. I
I
wasn't getting a lag, so I'm sorry.
all right, so no worries. Yep. What do I think? I guess the first thing that jumps out at me is the stat of condos, average days on the market, 30, 30, whatever it is.
38 and 39. 39 in Vancouver, 38 in
Yeah, I don't know. Speaking to some of the partners that we are working with on the real estate side of things, they would be happy if that was their listing, right? So I don't know. I'm a little curious about that stat and the validity of it, but who am I to basically tell that, to challenge that stat based on the information that they pound out? So their information, trusting that it's factual, and which it is, because it's all based on what's been listed and what's been sold. That one surprises me a little bit.
So it surprises me a lot a bit. It surprises me a lot. And I think I have an answer for that. It may not be legitimate. I feel like it is. So when we do our listing, when we go into a listing meeting with clients, a lot of the clients will ask us, so how long do your properties stay on the market compared to the average other realtors?
Yeah.
There's a statistic that we can show that shows our sales versus other realtors. One way to make your sales look a lot better is when you do have an offer that you've got accepted, is to then turn around and delist your listing and relist it again so that it starts back at 0 days on market. So what that is going to do is artificially change what days on market looks like, right? It's going to change your days on market as that realtor to looking really, really good because it looks like your listings are selling fast. And then because you're taking down something that might have been sitting on the market for 154 days and changing it to 0 days, that now changes your averages. So that's where when I look at that number of days on market, I do honestly take that with a little bit of a grain of salt because I do know how they're manufactured. Right. The detached homes, I believe, is more real. And I truly believe in those numbers, detached homes and the townhomes to a degree. I believe in those numbers. In the condos, I actually don't believe in those days on market. Yeah.
Well, which goes to the point, like that makes total sense to me, is that when you relist it, now it's 0 days back, right? Whereas it could have been on there for 4 months or 3 months or 2 months or whatever.
Yeah.
So okay. Well, again, proves my point, folks. Dig deep when you have questions because that answer makes sense. The other one, that other stat is like 33 days for a condo.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know.
and again, so that's very important. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Geoff, but that's very important when you're asking these questions, when you're doing an interview, right, with a realtor, right, to get the best one to interview the best person for your power team. Understand that a lot of these can be manipulated so that the person that you might be sitting in front of you and telling you that they've got all these great stats, they might have just artificially manipulated those stats for you and you're not getting the great person. So it's not, you can't use these days on market as the basis of your decision to hire, right? That a lot more has to go into it. And that's why I think it's a few pods ago, I think it's about 6 or 7 actually, I made the mention of asking behavioral questions, right? When you're interviewing somebody to really understand what their scope of work looks like and what they do, as opposed to statistical numbers like, oh, so what's your days on market? 37, right? What's your average rent? Oh, I get mine for 3% below this price. You know what I mean? Because you can manipulate some of these numbers. So you really want to make sure that the questions that you ask are behavioral based so you understand how they work. Right? Right. So so sorry, Geoff, go ahead with any more of your insights if you have.
Yeah, no, that was the one thing. There was a lot of info there. So again, one thing that jumped out at me immediately was the time on market for condos.
Yeah. I think one of the stats that was biggest for me was where our price points sit at right now, especially in the valley. We are 26% below the peak in June of 2022. So we were talking in 2022 about how unaffordable, I'm doing the air quotes again, things had gotten in British Columbia. And now we're 26% below that number. Right. And again, we've got people sitting on the sidelines and not and hesitating to get engaged. And we talk about fear of missing out. And I talk about and I talk about FOMAM, right? Fear of making a mistake. Right. And I think that is what that just tells me we're in more of a FOMAM, fear of making a mistake, than fear of missing out. Because there should be no fear of missing out because we are considerably cheaper than 5 years ago, 4 years ago.
And when you take a look at the mandate of governing bodies, one of their mandates was affordability, right? So if you take a look at affordability back in 2022, to where we are at 2026, you could possibly, well, you could definitely say that they've achieved what they were mandating,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so when's it going to start to move is the big question.
Yeah.
Because to your point, fear of making a mistake or the is no longer fear of missing out. It's the
Right.
fear of making a mistake. And I think that's the environment we're in.
Yeah.
And I always will go back to the stat that we reference is that, home ownership, folks, is your biggest net worth asset that you're going to have in your life. It's not going to be your income that determines your net worth. Your income will determine what you can do in property purchases because that's where your down payment comes from. But if you have the mentality that your income is going to be, how your net worth is going to be when you're at that age of retirement, I don't know. I'm a big believer in history, and the history will tell you your net worth is going to come from properties that you own and sell over the period of your lifetime, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I agree, and I don't think that will. I don't think that will ever change. I really don't, because as long as there's homes, right? As long as there's real estate, it will more than likely always be your biggest purchase,
I think that
your biggest
opinion
investment.
will change, in
Yes,
the environment or in the circle that you're in.
right.
But if you take a look at the true and the hard fact of numbers based over a period of time, it's hard to argue.
That's what I mean. Like, right? Like it is always going to be your biggest investment. You will never ever, but more than likely, you won't sit there and put $1.5 million into Apple stock, right? But you are going to take $1.5 million and put it into your home and purchase a home.
Yeah, and again, digging a little bit deeper on that, you're not literally taking 1.5 million and putting it
Sure.
into a stock.
Right.
You're putting a down payment, say, of $200,000 for
It
that 1.5 million
5
dollar
million.
asset, right?
Right. Exactly.
So, even as an investment strategy, who has 1.5 million to put into a stock, but
Yeah.
who has 5 to 20% to put into an asset?
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So,
Well, which is
yeah,
a
so
good
it's going to be.
segue. Yeah, go
No, sorry.
ahead.
I was just going to say it's going to be interesting to see how, because we're in the summer months, so it's going to be interesting to see how the next few months shape up here, right? As we go and finish out summer and then head into fall, which is supposed to get busier again, right? Pick up again. So it'll be interesting to see what the next, what the latter part of this year looks like.
I've been hearing that for the last 3 years of every quarter. This
Right?
is where we're going.
Right?
This is
Well,
where we're going.
I will
This is
say
where
though,
we're
hey,
going. So
in
you know what? Let's
this
get
year,
there and
yeah,
let's see how it goes.
this year is going to be interesting though, because we do have stuff that is happening in November outside of our borders as well that is going to be really, really big for the rest of the world, right? With the U.S. midterms and stuff like that. So this year, really, this last half of the year is going to be very, very interesting. Like with regards to the economic platform of the rest of the world, it's going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, the word that I just heard today is to be the devil's advocate. It's always interesting,
True.
right?
True.
There are some things that we know that are going to make it interesting with these midterms,
Yeah.
but then there's things that make it interesting that we're not aware of, and we've talked about all that stuff already, right?
True enough.
So
True enough.
there's always something that's going to be interesting, but this is where I say is nobody has that crystal ball, right?
That's
Like
it.
at the end of the day, we're in the moment, and basically you just take one step at a time. And if you want to find an excuse why things are good or why things are bad, you're going to find it,
That's true.
right?
You gotta look hard enough.
You just got to look hard enough.
Yeah.
Again, I won't say this too loud, but excuses are like a-holes.
Yeah. Everybody's got
Everyone's
one.
got one,
Yeah.
and they all stink.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Well,
Well, all right.
that's
Now on that,
the did you know? That's it.
let's
That's the
move
did
into
you know
this.
and now you do. So you go ahead, Geoff.
Yeah.
That's the did you know and now you do.
Well, hey, my quote of the day there just lost me. How much this is what I want to talk about today, and it comes back to what we were talking about a little bit as far as housing and the
Yeah.
fear of making a mistake in the past, fear of missing out. But a lot of people will ask, like, how much income do I actually need to purchase a home?
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of break it down to wanted to break that down to what this looks like in Vancouver, and not to pigeonhole in Vancouver, because when we see the numbers for what you have to do in Vancouver, it's like, oh my Lord, like a big WTF. How am I ever going to buy a home? This is the reason why I want to rent. But then I thought it was important to also kind of say, hey, as Canada wide, what does that look like? And if anybody had a specific area like the Fraser Valley or the Greater Vancouver area or Richmond or Kitimat or Toronto, give me a shout. We can break it down. But again, I want everyone, when they hear how much income do you need to buy a home here in Vancouver and Canada wide, do take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, because you can't really pinpoint it to the penny. This is just, and this is all based on the statistics and the information that we have.
Yeah.
Alistair, you were going to say something, but I know you're lagging a little bit on your end. So
No. It's okay. Go. I'm just agreeing because I'm super excited. I'm super excited to talk about this because this was going to be a did you know? I think about 3 or 4 weeks ago there was an article that came out about what income needed to be. So this is always a topic that that just as a real estate agent I have with my clients all the time, just as a sidebar conversation when we're just talking about, because I'm from Winnipeg, and so that the cost, the amount of income you need to own a home is vastly different. But when you go province to province, your salary doesn't change depending on that business you're like with, depending on the business you're with. You very rarely does your salary go up if you get transferred, let's say, from Manitoba to British Columbia. It's not like you get a raise to go with it, but your affordability just took a complete 180.
yeah.
Right. So yeah. So go on. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, so to your point, everybody is always asking, like, how much can I afford, right?
Yeah.
And what we need to understand, that buying power isn't solely based on your income.
Right.
And we've said this before, every $21,000 that you earn and that you pay tax on means it's about $100,000 that you can borrow.
Right.
So we will work with people that make $100,000, and they all of a sudden, well, based on what you've said to me, or based on what I've heard on your pod, if I'm making $100,000, every $20,000 I earn, well, I should be able to borrow 500 grand. Well, in theory, that's kind of true, right? But it also comes down to, well, what are your debts? Because we've also talked about every $14,000 of credit card debt or line of credit debt that you have, that takes away 100,000.
Yeah.
Every $600 payment you have takes away 100,000. Right. So it's not purely based on your income. That's one ingredient to the borrowing power pie, we'll call it. Right.
Yeah.
So what is your income? What are your debts? What is your credit score? So remember, guys, your credit score is equally as important as your income. You could be making that $100,000 and have a credit score of 600, and you have poor credit history. A bank or a credit union or an A lender is going to say no to your income, because your income is, your credit is equally as important as your income. So what does your credit look like? Which also goes to the point, you could have an 800 or a 900 credit score, doesn't mean, and a $60,000 income doesn't mean you're going to be able to buy that $600,000 property. They're equally important, right? So again, like, what does your debt look like? What does your credit score look like? Understand, what does your down payment look like? And remember, like, Allister and I can have the exact same income of $100,000. I could have a lot more debt than Allister, My credit score may not reflect the same. And Allister is going to be able to purchase something that's a bigger value than what I'm going to be able to do because I don't have, because he doesn't have the debt that I have. He has a stronger credit score that I have. And the down payment can also be the same. So again, there's a lot more ingredients in what are you able to buy outside of just what is your income. So again, the estimated household income here in Vancouver. Okay, when I took a look at this, it blew me away a little bit. So an average condo in Vancouver, and again, please, all you realtors and all you info junkies out there, just work with me on these. The average condo price in Vancouver is anywhere from 650 to 850,000 as an average. Okay. So in order to basically buy something between 650 to 850,000, your income has to be anywhere from 115 to 150,000, right? And this is where I say is we just did a file on a condo that was $300,000. They had an income of 60 grand. We were able to do it. So again, this is where, we'll have a lot of info junkies out there is like, what are you talking about? Give me a little bit of forgiveness here. Let's work with these numbers. But the average condo price in Vancouver between 650 and 850,000, you have to have an income of 115 to 150 grand. Okay. Remember, this is also including what your debts are going to look like based on stats and everything else that follows along with it. Taking a look at a townhouse, anywhere from 950 to 1.2 million. You're going to need an income of anywhere from 165 to 205,000. And then every detached home that's about 1.6 to 2.1, you're going to need an income of about 270,000. So again, folks, keep in mind, and we've talked about, we have such a huge vacancy in the Vancouver condo market. It is because a lot of times people who are buying condos, they could be a single income earner.
Yeah.
So a single income earner, if you're earning 115 to 150, awesome. But again, that's a lot of income for a single person to be earning, right?
Yeah.
In addition to all the other debts that they have. We've also talked about how townhouses and detached homes are a much stronger market than a condo. But again, a lot of times when you're talking about townhomes and detached homes, now you're talking about a double income family, right? Or you're calling them dinks. Remember what the dinks are?
Yeah.
Double income, no kids.
No kids.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, when you're taking a look and you're saying 165,000 to 205,000, to buy a townhouse in Vancouver, to me, that's not really unattainable. That's two working people earning 80 grand a year, or $85,000 a year, or one is earning 100 and the other one is earning 60, right? So when you take a look at the double income in a family, these become a little bit more like, okay, I get it. But if you're single and saying, well, 165 or 270, like, how can I do it? I might as well just rent, which is now the conversation of a lot of young people, right? Which we talked about last week.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, like I know like StatsCan has been all over this over the last little bit, but like when you look at it, the average salary in British Columbia now is 70,000 $70,000 for the average person. So I know that that's one of the reasons why they're trying to look into affordability and all of that sort of stuff, because that 70,000, like I said, is going to be as if you're working 70,000 in British Columbia, Ontario, Manitoba, and all that sort of stuff. That salary basically follows you. It doesn't move up because depending on where you live, or move down depending on where you live. Yeah.
Well, and this is where I wanted to break it down to Canada wide, because everybody doesn't live in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And again, we could have done this by province. We could have done this in a whole bunch of different ways. But Canada wide, the average condo price Canada wide is about 464,000. Okay. based on the information that we collected.
Makes sense.
So that means that's an income of anywhere from 90 to 100,000. So remember, this is based on your income. This is based on your debt load, excuse me, statistically speaking. Canada-wide, average condo price about 464. That means you're going to need to earn anywhere from 90 to 100,000.
Yeah.
Townhouse, Canada-wide, roughly about 604,000. That means you're going to need an income of 115 to 125,000. And then a detached home, excuse me, I'm going to cough. Thank you, goodness for mute. A detached home Canada-wide as an average is around 744,000. That means you need an income of 135 grand, right? So again, I wanted to break down for the people that are in Vancouver. Also, again, like you said in your, did you know we're the top 9 in the world to live? When you're in the top 9 in the world to live, you're also it's also the cost of living in a beautiful city, right?
Yeah.
So this makes a little bit sense when we talk about Vancouver. To buy a home, the average price 1.6 to 2.1, you need about a 270,000 plus income to do that. Again, when we talk about Vancouver and its overall cost of living, probably makes sense to do, right?
Yeah.
When we talk Canada-wide, a $744,000 home on an average, it's like, okay, that makes more sense. And even certain places here in the Fraser Valley and not necessarily in maybe even in the greater Vancouver area, again, you can find those homes, especially in the Fraser Valley. Like, well, I shouldn't say this. 744 probably still a little bit light here in the Fraser Valley and greater Vancouver area. But other parts of Canada, 744, you buy a home up in Kitimat, for example, you're buying an executive property, right? So, the other thing too, again, when we talk about it, and we talked about it already, is it's your debt, right? You can be having great income, your borrowing power based on the $21,000. Like if you're doing the simple math, is like, hey, I can borrow this. But again, this is where we've also talked about, what do your debts look like? And again, just to kind of recap on that, your income means you can borrow, but your debts also take away from that borrowing power. And it's actually quite significant when you think about it, because a lot of people will have, say, a $600 or a $900 car payment. They might only have $5,000 owing. Mind you, I worked on a file, they had $90,000 owing, but they might have a small amount owing on it. But it's not about what you owe, it's about what your payment is, right? So again, every $600 payment you have ish takes away $100,000 from that borrowing power. Every $14,000 of credit card debt or line of credit debt that you have unsecured takes away $100,000. So it also comes down to, what are your debts, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the conversation too, we have, well, I have a big down payment. Like I should be able to buy whatever I want. I got $300,000 down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, awesome. But again, what does your debts look like? Right. Or a lot of times people will say, well, I'm a first-time home buyer. I want to buy this place for $500,000. I have $25,000 down. Okay, tell me what my next steps are. Well, what is your income? Well, my income's, $40,000 or $60,000. Well, okay, well, just based on your income, say it's 60, that means the bank's going to lend you 300. You want to buy something for 500, you're going to need a $200,000 down payment, providing you have no debt, like not this 25,000. Well, what do you mean? I'm a first-time home buyer. So again, any of you first-time home buyers out there, or second, third, or 50th time home buyers, your down payment is dictated by what you're able to afford. So what is your income? What are your debts? What are you looking to buy is going to equal your down payment. The 5% or the 20%, those are just Bank of Canada guidelines as far as when it comes down to purchasing a home. It doesn't mean that's what you need to come up with. You may need to come up with a lot more, but that's the bare minimum that you need to do, right? Yeah. So again, a bigger down payment at times can give you some more options, because remember, as soon as you put 20% down, we can use what we call, you can use 30-year amortizations. And then when you can use a longer amortization because you have 20% down, What that will do is that will basically increase your purchase power. It will also lower your monthly payment. And it will also, at times, when you have that bigger down payment, improve your chances of getting mortgage approval. But again, Alistair, we've talked about this time and time and time on pods and off pods, is that you have a big down payment. And if you have a lot of consumer debt that's handcuffing you to do what you want to do, take some of that down payment, or even the majority of that down payment, put it towards your high consumer debt. Get rid of that line of credit debt of 14 grand. Get rid of that car payment of $600, and you'll be amazed now that, hey, you have a lower down payment because now you've used some of that down payment to pay off your consumer debt, and now you're able to do what you want to do. So a bigger down payment gives you more options because it allows you to restructure either your debt load a little bit differently, or yes, you can put it down onto the mortgage, and that basically increases your purchasing power. Make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Also, folks, don't forget about that lovely stress test that you hear about from time and time again when you're looking for financing. That stress test, to give you everyone a gentle reminder, is whenever you're purchasing a home or refinancing your home, you always get qualified based on your contract rate, which is the rate that you're going to be getting and being paid on, and we add 2% on that, and basically that affects your borrowing power by roughly around 25%. But this also protects you if the rates rise. The only time that you're not getting stress test is when you are basically taking your mortgage from one lender, because it's coming up for renewal, you're bringing it to another lender. You still need to qualify for it, but you're qualifying it at the rate that you're getting at the new lender without the stress test. That is the only time that you are not getting a stress test, when you are doing financing. And also keep in mind, folks, when you're renewing simply with your existing lender, you're not getting stress test or requalifying at all. It's the only time where you simply sign the renewal documents and away you go, if you're staying with the same lender.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, this is for everybody that's out there. Make sure, if you're on that homeowner journey, always get pre-approved. Make sure that make sure your pre-approval that you're doing is with a reputable mortgage broker or a reputable lending partner. Make sure that that person that you're working with is asking for your documents to verify the information on your application. And if you're not providing documents, your pre-approval is not worth the paper you wipe your bum on.
Yeah.
If you are providing your documents with your pre-approval, this is what your realtors will want. This will basically avoid any unnecessary stress you will have. It will avoid any surprises you may come up with. It's going to strengthen your offer when that time comes, and you can move forward with confidence. Now, again, folks, even when you get a pre-approval, even when you give them the documents, remember, that's all based on your income at that time, all based on your debts at that time, all based on your credit at that time, all based on your down payment at that time. If any of that changes, then again, your pre-approval needs to be redone.
Yeah. I know Geoff and I have said it before, but no going buying new cars after you just went and bought a new house. Don't decide, okay, we just got a new house, we need a new car to put in the garage. That's a big no.
Exactly. And that's what I got for us this week.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. That's one of the things that I know I talk about with my clients a lot, is, or just clients that give me a call and say, hey, you know what, I'm looking to buy a house, you know, what can I afford, or how much can I buy, or this is what I make, what do I do, da 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 da. And that's when, you know, you shuffle them along to Geoff after having that discovery call. But it's something that I just think people need to be reminded of. I think this is one of the things that we need to do a great job of reminding people, just what it all entails and what you need, especially again during this time where, oh my God, it feels like if we just had COVID or some other crazy time to mirror it right now that would get people to understand, like, okay, maybe I should buy now before I have to go back into this regular BC type of craze that I'm always having to deal with lack of inventory and escalating prices. Again, people would realize, hey, this is really a time to set up myself for the future. It's not talking about making any money for anybody else, for a mortgage broker or for a real estate agent or for anybody else. It's talking about making money for you. I just wish that, we did a better job educating people on how important it is to set themselves up right now. Because I know we gotta get this wrapped up right away, but it takes me back to a conversation that I had with one of my leaders a few years ago, and it was a group of us, and we were talking about the discussions that we were having with our clients. And there was a realtor saying, I don't know how I could tell my clients to buy a home right now when the market's going down and the interest rates are so high. This is back when we were dealing with, the interest rates were quite a bit higher, a year ago. But a great question was put forth by my leader, because at that time, when you looked at the cost of ownership, the interest rates were high and the prices were lower, right? But when you took a look at the cost of that versus when the interest rates were lower and the costs were higher, it was cheaper to buy at the time where interest rates were higher. So he was saying, look, how can we not be telling our clients that this is not a great time? How come we're not telling our clients that this is a great time to buy when it is, right? And that's our duty, is to tell our clients the best thing to do with their money. It's a fiduciary duty. Right now is the best time to buy. But when prices were getting out of control, right, and rates were low, we were telling them that then was a great time to buy, when it actually wasn't. COVID was not actually a good time for people to buy. But we told everybody it's a great time to buy. And then now, when it is the actual best time for people to buy, it's mum's the word. It's been mum's the word for years now, and almost fear mongering with the way that with rates and talking about how real estate it is right now, right? It is guys. I cannot stress enough. It is amazing time for people right now to set themselves up for the future. And when I talk about the future, I don't mean 3 years from now. I don't mean 5 years from now. I mean 10 years from now. Right? When the ability to own a home is taken away from the majority of people, because it will legitimately get too expensive for people that are holding anywhere even $10 above a minimum wage job, right? The cost of ownership will be out of their hands. So just everybody continue to just listen to us and ask questions and not listen to mainstream media.
Don't listen to the noise.
Don't listen to the noise. Stay out of the noise and listen to those people that are close. And for those people that are telling you constantly that something's scary, question them and say, is it scary because you're too afraid to do it? Or is it scary because it is actually scary? More often than not, it's scary because the person telling you is too afraid to do it. That's why it's scary, right? So that's it, people. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us today. Episode 102 has been packed with a whole lot for you guys. We hope it was valuable to you. We hope you guys were able to take away at least one chunk that's going to work for you this week. We hope you guys have an amazing weekend. We will be back here with episode number 103 next week. Most importantly, during that time, stay empowered, stay informed, and Geoff,
stay tuned.
That's right, baby. Stay tuned. Peace out.